where I'm talking about like offensive technology and things like that. It's a little bit more technical. And so last year I did how to secure your banks and enterprises from someone who robs banks and enterprises for a living, which was the offensive talk. And trust me, it offended a lot of people, especially when they were in the audience when I was talking about their stuff. There we go. And no, we don't. There we go. And then so this year is a rant year. And so we're going to start off with a rant. And this is one a little bit different, so I hope you enjoy it. It's called You're Right, This Talk Really Isn't About You. And basically, I spend a lot of time trying to help people. And I try to help people by showing them how they failed and by misplacing their trust and abusing their kindful nature against them. I'm real popular. It's like when I do these jobs. And I decided that I've been doing that too much. It's like I'm doing a small focus, and I'm like maybe helping one or two people. But how are we going to do that on a large scale? We need to actually go on a large scale to help people and get people involved in information security and being part of the solution instead of the problem. So I came up with this talk, and that's just a funny comic strip about communication, because that's one of our biggest failures in information security. It's not patching. It's not O-Day. It's not nation state. It's how we communicate to our users and our executives, our management. That's one of our biggest failings in information security and one of the biggest problems we need to patch. So a little bit about me. It's like it's not as cool as Dave's slides, but not everybody can be that cool. But it's like you may see me rob a bank on Nat Geo, or you may see me on the news, or most likely you've seen me actually in your server room or places where I shouldn't be stealing your stuff. It's one of my favorite pictures where I actually took a computer from behind a teller line and walked out with it without even saying hello. I was really rude that day, and just walked out with it because it was fun. But when we get more into communication, it's like this is one of the important ones, because this is one of the exact problems where how we communicate and how it's actually displayed and talked to among the people, how we get the message out. Because these are two statements from John F. Kennedy. The first one, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. People love that saying. It's like he gets quoted, all those little motivational posters with the eagle and the lake in the background and everything, all those inspirational yoga posters. It's like at least one of them has this. Motivational speakers still quote this because it sounds really cool. And it's totally false. 100% incorrect. But he is still lauded for this quote. He is still respected for this quote. He is still talked about how great this quote was, and he was wrong. But people use that, and they still use it to this day, and they quote him on this, thinking that they're sounding really cool, just like John JFK, whatever you want to call him. So it doesn't matter. So, but if you look at this next one, Ich bin ein Berliner. And I'm not saying that correct. Don't correct me, Phoenix. It's like, I'm not saying it correctly, but he said that, and he was ridiculed. To this day, he is still ridiculed for saying it that way. The common definition or the common story of that is that he was telling everybody he was a jelly donut. What an idiot. I mean, that's when we thought presidents couldn't get any more idiotic. We've been wrong. That's what they made fun of him about, was that he said he was a jelly donut. Wrong. He said it correctly. When you're in Berlin and you are a citizen of that city, the proper way to say that you are from Berlin is to say, Ich bin ein Berliner. He said it the proper way. It was translated wrong, and he was made fun of. So two statements, one he's given credit for and praise for, and he was wrong, and the other one he was given ridicule for, and he was right. Doesn't that sound a little bit like information security sometimes? So that's one of our problems, is how we communicate the message. Are we saying the right message and sending it to the right people in the right way? And is it being interpreted the right way? Because it doesn't matter how good you say it if it's not interpreted correctly. It's not going to be helping people. And I hate this cartoon. I said that before y'all started laughing and thought it was really funny. I hate this. This is one of the best examples of what's wrong with us. We think this is funny. It's like, oh, look at the stupid user, human error. and Dave, and I think Dave's an awesome person. It's like, I think that's really disrespectful to say Dave like that. I had such a problem with this cartoon and the message it's sending to the people, because gives you permission to give up. This gives you permission to say, just stupid user clicked on a link. That takes all the onus off of you and your failings and puts it on somebody else. This is a horrible comic. So much so that I talked to my supervising adult at Sphere, Jason Burns, and complained so much to him about this cartoon and why I disliked it so much. Do you know what he went out and did for me? He went and contacted the creator of this cartoon and had him redraw the cartoon the way it should be. This is the way the cartoon should have been in the first place. This is actually from the original artist from the first one. And now he's fixed it. That's the way it should be. If you're trying to get technology to solve your people problem, instead of getting people to help solve your technology solutions or create your technology solutions, you're failing. We have to start understanding that humans are your first line of defense and your last line. They're not a liability, they're an asset. But we have approached it totally wrong for so many years. Where it's like, and they've relegated us to the janitorial staff. When a breach happens or something incident happens, we're there to like format and reinstall the machine or to clean up the mess. Not actually securing the company, we're there as an inconvenience to the user. It's like, I've actually had users complain to me because I had to reformat their machine because their machine was compromised. And I'm like, excuse me, it's like, that's like going through the 7-Eleven, you know, opening up all the Slurpee machines and then getting in trouble or getting mad at the guy cleaning up the mess because you're still trying to get your Slurpee. It's like, that's not on them, that's on you. But we try to make excuses for the user. We say, well, the user doesn't understand what computer security is about. The user doesn't understand what the responsibilities are. This user is just too dumb to understand that. User's too dumb to do these things. It's like, that's not part of their job requirement. We're trying to put more task on them. What? Are you kidding me? Are we actually trying to say that we have to limit what a user is supposed to do? As an employee of the company, we're limiting what their functions and responsibilities are, like they're not going to do the job. Excuse me, people will do a lot of different things for money. Okay? This is an actual viable job. Granted, in the 1950s, I think, when this picture was taken, but this is a viable job. Humans will accomplish tasks they are required to perform to be employed, period. They will do what is required of them if their paycheck and livelihood is dependent on it. Our problem is we haven't attached information security to that equation. We tell them how to make the widgets and market the widgets and do all the other things that they're widget related, but nothing about securing the widgets. And then when they compromise, we get mad at them and we just write it off as stupid user. If they are not taught from day one what their jobs are in security and what it matters about, and it's part of their responsibilities to do so, how can we get mad when they don't do it? We need to start understanding that that's how you get users involved. Day one. Who here has a company that does delivery drivers? It's like, you know, on the first day of the job, when that delivery driver gets on board, do you immediately hand them the keys like, oh yeah, you know what to do. Sure, go for it. It's like, here's your route. No. You show them what your company policies are. That they have to use the seatbelt. It's company policy that they have to use the seatbelt. It's company policy that they have to use turn signals. It's company policy that they have to maintain the speed limit. It's company policy that they have to obey all traffic laws. You go one step further and you put tracking devices in their vehicles to make sure that they're following those rules. You actually put a thing on the back of their vehicle to say, hey, am I driving safely? It's like, call this number if I'm not. Because that's an important piece of equipment. If they get in an accident, that's $100,000 down maybe in some of those real fancy trucks, right? First day of the job, you give the computer to a user and say, here's all the things you need to do about your job. You don't talk anything about security. And then when they lose you $300 million, it's like, how did that happen? You're worried more about a $100,000 truck than $300 million coming out of your company from a breach. Because you're not equating that they have the same consequences and the same responsibilities with that computer as a delivery guy with that truck. You have to teach them that. There has to be consequences. Because I am telling you, humans normally do not take on extra tasks if it is not going to directly impact their job in a day-to-day negative way. I mean, and I looked for an excited worker. Literally, this is not photoshopped or anything. I did a search, excited worker on Google. All I got were stock images. And I guarantee you, right after they finish taking these pictures, all those stock models are going, God, I hate this job. You know? You're not going to get a worker that is going to go over and do something extra when you're telling them that they don't get any kind of consequences if they screw up on it. How many people here are going to like, well, you're not really going to get in trouble if you do this. It's like, but we'd like you to do that. I ain't doing that. It's like, I don't have to do that. I'm not going to get in trouble if I don't do that. Then why would I do that? I'm doing all the stuff that you're telling me that I have to do to keep myself employed and feed and clothe my children. I'm worried about that stuff. We're not showing them that they have to do the onerous task of actually looking through before they click a link. We're not showing them that they have to make sure that their systems are patched before they go in. We're not telling them that they can't leave their laptop at Panera Bread for 15, 20 minutes or a Starbucks while they go to the restroom and leave it unattended and unlocked, which trust me, I have pictures of. We're not talking about that, and so why would they need to take those extra steps if it's not part of their job responsibility? From day one, that's part of their job responsibility. Stop putting out that the users don't have a responsibility to security. They have a responsibility for that, and we need to start making sure that we're communicating that to them properly. We need to make sure that they understand that securing the network is the job for everybody, the CEO to the mailroom. It's their responsibility. It's harder to get upper management to understand that, but they will when you show them what the bottom line is and why it's important. It's like, and one of the other key things that really gets me is humans always consider the odds when making bad decisions. We have to stack the odds for them to do the right thing. And this is a perfect example of bad impulse control, and trust me, I know the feeling. And that's a search you can do on Google, on YouTube for that. But if they don't have any negative repercussions, it's like if there's no consequences, then why do they care? I'm stating right here that if you have an employee that is responsible for clicking on a link in a phishing email for the first time, they need to be educated. You need to teach that as a learning, teachable moment for them. They need to go into a separate lesson class. It's like that you go and you give them one-on-one training or 300, depends on how many people click the link, maybe a full classroom the first time. It's like, and you teach them what to look for. You prepare them. You educate them and you empower them to make the decisions to make it better. Second time they click on the link, they need to get written up. You need to put something down. They need to be talked to their supervisor and why this is dangerous. Third time, they should be fired. Why is that a bad thing? If your employee is exposing your company to risk that could cost you millions of dollars, they need to be terminated. They're costing you millions of dollars. If a delivery driver crashes your van the first time, he's going to get a stern talking to, correct? There might be extenuating circumstances. I guarantee you by the second time he crashes that van, people are going to be looking. He's going to have repercussions on that. The third time, who's going to give him a third time to crash the van? That's a $100,000 piece of equipment. You don't play around with that because that's real world, consequences. You see that. Why aren't we treating the computer and the data as much as we care about the van? They need to understand that there are real world consequences to this. This is one of the things that you have to understand. You have to let them know that this is their job responsibility. You need to educate them and teach them on what their responsibilities are and what they entail, and then you need to enforce them on that. Educate, empower, and enforce. If you don't have those three things, you have a dysfunctional security system. You need to make sure that they're doing that. Now, I may have forgotten something. Oh no, maybe I have to push it twice. There we go. I forgot that this is a little different. It's less than a rant. I'm actually holding a panel discussion because it's like it shouldn't be just me talking about how I've done it or how it works for me. I'm asking you questions, and someone from the audience, one or two people for every question I have is going to answer it for me. And don't worry, you're saying, well, Jason, how nobody raises their hands? I'm glad you asked that. I will run down there and I will find someone randomly and ask them to ask the question. So I'm pretty sure that someone's going to, and trust me, you in the back row, you're not protected, okay? I will run down there. I've run down farther aisles giving this talk to ask questions of people. So let's start with the first question. So what is our biggest challenge in InfoSec when it comes to users? What do you think our biggest challenge is? You got to raise your hand. It's like, and what are you saying? Education. Well, sort of what I'm ranting about right now. We got to educate our users. That's sort of cheating. It's like, because it's like, but it is. I appreciate that because that validates why I'm actually standing up here and ranting to you guys. It's like, one more, yes. Well, okay, two more, yes. Why does she care? Why are they invested? It's like exactly, why are they invested to actually care? And that's when you actually tie in real world consequences to that. Yes. Boom. It's like, and I talk about that a little bit later. They feel sorry, Bessie right there. It's like they feel alienated. They don't feel like they're even connected or a responsibility for that because we've alienated them so much. It's like, so I agree with that. It's like, so let's go to the next question. There's more. Oh, she looks weird that way. There she goes. Okay. So how do we engage users to be part of the security process and not part of the problem? How do we engage our users? Yes. Gamify it. Yes, I will talk about that in a little bit. We actually make it a gamification. We gamify the system so instead of them just having to feel like it's a responsibility, there's a reward factor in it. We make it where they actually feel like and actively part of it, where they can get something out of it. That's a perfect way to do it. Yes?
If it's their first strike, try not to make them feel too punished and make them feel involved and that they found something they can help with.
Yes, it is a no harm, no foul situation the first time they screw up. It is an educational, teachable moment. And you approach it that way. It says, look, it's like this was this could have been even a worse breach. It's like, it's like we have to work on this, but we're there for you. This is what you needed to know. Maybe you didn't understand this properly, and I'm here to help you make sure you don't make this mistake again. You create it that way. And you in the back for the last one. Make the educational personal. Yes, that's a very big thing. It's like one of the things that I teach with mine and April's security awareness training class is actually how to actually attack your own company. Show your employees Facebook posts. Show their Twitter accounts. Show their social media. Show how you would gather data and create an actual spear phishing email that's tailored to one of your actual users. Usually your executive management, because one, it's less likely to get alienated between the users, and one, it helps get you buy into this to the executive management once they finish getting pissed off at you for doing it. It's like, but it educates them and lets them realize, oh, this could happen to me. So yes, you make it personal. Now, let's talk a little bit about us. Security must understand the complete business process. If they don't understand the business, how can they properly defend it? And there's no better picture or an example on how having uneducated employees trying to implement a process horribly, horribly wrong than TSA. Thank you for that. The only good thing they're like the Titanic, actually. The only good thing they ever did was give you a good example of what to do, not to do. So, so thank you for that, TSA. Oh crap! I forgot. I got to fly home tonight. I mean, like, but this is what it is. This is our problem. They know that there's a threat. They know that there's a security thing that they have to do, but the process is all screwed up. And they're not trained or educated on how to create that process. They don't really understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to do pattern matching. They're trying to actually just go and say, is this or is it that? It's like I'm no Chris Roberts, but I have traveled with stuff that could take down a plane, but I have never managed to get 4 ounces of toothpaste through security. That's a problem, right? That's the bad problem with pattern matching. It's like they actually go through that hypothetically, by the way. It's like, so it's like, I gotta add that for the later. But it's like, so yeah, there's a problem with that. Because we're not teaching our security what we do for a business. And everybody here knows what your company does to make money. Do you understand the processes that they require? I stole this from a person I don't like, so I'm not going to give them total credit. But I will say that I did steal it from them, where it says, it's like when you're looking at a company, it's like one of the first things you do as a pen tester, it's like what makes them money and how do you steal it? Your security should be asking the same question. Some companies don't need internet-facing businesses. They can go hours or days without having their website up or updated or the back end working. Some will fold within 10 minutes if they don't have access to email. What does your company, what are their security processes? Do you as an information security professional understand what business processes are in place and what are required for day-to-day activity for the company to stay up and running, and what parts of the network can go down for how long before it gets into a serious critical issue? Those are not sexy questions. Those aren't the fun things to do. Those aren't the fun things. Trust me, I used to work for a bank, and one of the funniest jokes I used to make, which I was horribly wrong at, was, I thought we just made money. Isn't that what banks do? That was very flippant, and it's like, and it was also hiding the fact that I really didn't know how a bank made money. It's like, but I learned, and I figured out what the processes were, and I figured out what they were doing. It's a scam. I'm sorry. It's a very complicated process. Okay? I'm in so much trouble now. It's like, so it's a very complicated process. And I had to learn that. That wasn't dealing with my job. That had nothing to do with what I did for a living. Because how if I went and learned something else? It's like, how if I went to another company? Then I would have to learn the whole process over again. But yes, that's what you do. You need to understand what your company is doing to make sure you're able to protect it. And how are you communicating your side of it, your security side of it? Security has to build a rapport with the executives and the users. We have to understand a way that we're seen as a threat at first. We're there when something goes wrong. We're there when something bad happens. When I used to work with law enforcement, it's like I told people it was one of the worst jobs. It was one of the most depressing things to do because I met everybody on the worst possible day of their life. Something bad had just happened to them and I showed up, or I showed up and something bad happened to them. Either way, it was a really bad day. In information security, we're not there as the bad day. We're not there as the worst. We're there as facilitators. We're there to help them do their job. We're there to help keep the company viable and keep the company profitable by keeping the company running. If your executives only see you as a cost center, there's a problem with that. You're not getting the buy-in that you need. You need to make sure that your company understands what you do and why it's vital for the company. Your users can't just see you when you get out of that dark cave wherever you come from to just go and gripe at them because they put a virus on the system, or they emailed an executable that they shouldn't have, or they're watching on a website that they shouldn't have been at. Do you have lunch and learns with your employees? Do you have ways to actually talk to your employees and talk to them and send communication to them so not every time that you meet them, it is not a bad situation? It's an educational moment. It's a team building moment. Because don't get this wrong. They're part of your team. You're responsible for every single user. They're part of your team. That is the biggest intrusion detection system you're ever going to own. And if you just have them sitting at their desk, not understanding what's going on or what to report or how to report it to, you're going to have a bad day. That's like putting a snort box into the company enterprise, setting just the default signatures like, that's good enough. Yeah, that lasts for like 3 minutes, right, before you turn everything off, because it's like, whoa, okay. It's like, that's the problem. You have to fine-tune any IDS that you own. Well, you own that IDS system. Are you fine-tuning them? Are you letting them know what to look out for, what you're interested in seeing? Are you making a conduit so it's easy for them to report the issues? If you're not doing that, you don't have a really good IDS system running. And one of the biggest problems is security must realize that communication is how humans get patched. I know Kevin likes to share, social engineering for there's no patch for human stupidity. I think that's wrong. Once again, I think that's a good way to laugh off the problem that we have by saying stupid user or no patch for human stupidity. There is a patch. It's education. We've gotten our management to spend the second Tuesday of every month to patch our Windows boxes, right? I know a lot of, hopefully y'all have, trust me, it's like that's something y'all should be doing. It's like, and also, I've had people where they're actually using that second Tuesday of every month to actually patch the other systems, the other programs. I mean, with Java, you got to do that every day, or, it's like with Adobe, you probably should have done it 3 times while I was talking so far. But it's like you have to patch with those things. You have to patch those systems and teach them. Well, that's one of the key things that you have to do with humans. Why aren't you patching them by giving out a bulletin, by doing a lunch and learn, by doing a lesson, by showing them how to be security conscious at home, how to be security conscious at work? You need to be able to patch them regularly. So what is the biggest, hold on, there we go. So what is the biggest impediment you're facing in doing a more effective job? What's your biggest roadblock right now in doing a better job at this? Yes. So your companies aren't, so she's saying there's no value on the data. There's asset tracking on your machines. There's asset tracking on the hours that people work, but there's no actual asset tracking on the data that you're using. So therefore, it's not real. It's like virtual, that's the reason why so many people have gone to the mobile gaming platform programs. Because people just don't realize how much money they're actually spending because it's virtual coins. And trust me, Call of Duty and those effing crates and having to buy them because you want that extra skin to looking cool, super cool. It's like I've been a victim of that. I was stupid. It's like, and I bought a lot of those because it was not real money. It was like, I was just buying some real fake money so I could buy the fake product, but it was with real money. So yeah, we're not putting actual prioritization on the data. So they're not seeing any kind of worth to that. It's like we have to equate that and show them why it's worth. And you do that by showing them what the cost of breaches are. You educate your executive management by showing them what it costs. Who here has a company that can lose $300 million and still be in business? If you work with Target, please keep your hands down. Okay? Not many companies can. That's how you show it. You show them what the cost of an actual breach is and show them what could happen to them. One more answer from this side. What is the biggest impediment you're facing in doing a more effective job? Wait, you already talked though, didn't you? No. Okay, it's a good one. I'll give you this one. I'm going to go one more person because I'm going to run in the back and show them I wasn't joking.
The company that I don't work at, the private investment firm that bought it doesn't understand how they make their money and how people steal it so they don't secure it.
So you have to learn how they make their money so that you can teach them how they. No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You have to learn how they do that process so then you can then teach them how they do their process and so therefore can secure it.
Go both ways.
Yeah. But I say that. Right, exactly. They may not see the two-way street, but that's one of the things where you have to, it's not on you to have to do that, but if you want it to be secured, it has to be. It's like, that's one of the things. Anybody from the back? No, you're a volunteer. It's like, we're going to go right over here. This person, excuse me. You're the most judgmental looking person. What's your answer on that one? What is the biggest impediment you're facing in doing a more effective job? Is your boss next to you?
Yeah, no.
Okay, good. Then you're fine. And I'm blocking you from the video, so you're fine. So what's?
I don't know. Just getting the buy-in. I guess getting them to.
Getting upper management buy into the process.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Thank you. Everybody else is like, why didn't I get applause for my question or answer? So yeah, so one of the biggest problems is getting upper management buy into the process. That's a big one. We have to teach them why it's important. And I'm glad you said that because I'll get to that in just a little bit. So our next question is, what is your biggest accomplishment as it relates to creating a more secure environment at work? What's your biggest accomplishment? Not all your hands at once, okay? Oh, this is something good about me. Yes. No, seriously, what's a positive? Come on. Everyone here has something that they've done that's accomplished a more secure environment. That's why you're still employed. Yes.
Sent out a fake phishing email, and my office manager that sits right next to me clicked on it. And I said, really, come on. Every day you hear me talking about security.
Right.
You still clicked on it. So I used her as an example around.
So you created a teachable moment through a phishing attack. It's like they got your business manager. That is a good accomplishment. It's like,
I spread it out, so I used the phishing. Used her as an example.
you use it as an example. So that's perfect. So he used an actual phishing technique that his boss actually clicked on, and then got the boss's permission to use as an example company-wide to understand why they shouldn't fall for them, which is actually a good thing because when they realize that their boss is buying into the process, they're going to buy into the process. The worst thing you can have says for an executive to say, it doesn't apply to me. Because then everybody that person reports to will say, it doesn't apply to me because I report to them. And then the people that they work for will say, well, it doesn't apply to me because I work for that person. And it goes down, all the way down to the mailroom. No offense to people in the mailroom, by the way. I'm just using it as a baseline there. So what's the next, who's got the next answer? What, oh, did you raise, oh, there you go. Yes, you raised your hand. Yes. You, sir.
Oh, you're looking at me?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, frankly, I got us to actually start reviewing the process for usability to get people knowing why we're doing what we're doing. Because most of the developers that I deal with, they need a sense of purpose to actually internalize a process. And so we've actually started educating people on the why.
So Lintal said, thank you, Lintal, is like he said he actually started educating on why it's important. He actually started explaining to them what the whole process, not just like, oh, it just has to be done, but why it needs to be done. Giving them that sense of purpose. That's really good. So we're going to go to the next one. You're like, crap, there's more? It's like, so how do we approach the problem, humans versus tech? And one of the key things that we need to do is gamification. How many people know exactly what gamification means when it comes to security awareness? It's like, so if I go and tell you it's company policy that you have to actually not click on a spear phishing email, but you also have to report it, okay, that's policy. But if I tell you that if you report for every spear phishing email that you receive and you report it, you have a chance every quarter to win $1,000. Well, that changes the dynamics a little bit, doesn't it? It's like, how many people here have a company that can spend $4,000 a year on creating a better security aware environment? And that's how you approach it to upper management. I'm only asking for $1,000 a quarter. And you don't have to, and it doesn't change. That's the beauty of it. You can put how much money you want. You can make it $10,000 if you're a really cool company. It's like all the other cool companies are doing that. It's like, but you can do that, and it's like you do the drawing. Every person has a chance to win if they report a security breach. If someone tried to tailgate them and they stopped them, they get to be entered. If they report, so you don't, it changed, the pools change, the prize stays the same. It always stays at that fixed money. So they don't have to pay more, but you have more people alert. There was a friend of mine who told me that a breach was stopped, an actual attack where the attackers were already inside their network. They had already compromised a user, and that user that was compromised was sending an internal email to the other employee. She sees it, she immediately reports it, and stops the breach right there. When asked why she did that, did you find it like super suspicious, or did you think it was like, did you realize that that person was breached? Her response, I kid you not, was, well, I thought it was just a test, and I wanted another entry into the another drawing entry into the prize. It's like, that's the only reason. I had no idea that it was real. It's like, I thought it was just a possible, I mean, I wasn't even too sure that if it was fake or not, but it looked suspicious enough that I could probably get another entry in it. From that prize, they stopped an ongoing internal breach that they could have lost millions on. The attackers were already in the network. But because she thought she got another chance at a drawing, she stopped it. The user did that. And by the way, information security did that because they created that kind of environment and were that approachable for the users to actually do that. Because we need to start treating them like that. If we start treating them to what we want them to be instead of what we think they are, they will start trying to be that. They will live up or live down to your expectations, whatever they are. So why aren't you trying to make them live up to your expectations that they're a team member and they're a valuable part of your information security process? Because if you're not giving them that kind of value, they know that. Why should they try to change your mind when it's easier for them and it's easier for their job not to? So how do we show risk in ways that will affect change? You create teachable moments. How many people here have gone to your company's website for finding a way to try to find a way to attack them? Everybody should look at their company website as an attacker does and then give a report on what they find. It's like they need to show what the vulnerabilities are. How many people here have actually gone, in a non-stalky sense, gone and looked at your co-workers' Facebook pages or Twitter pages? You raised your hand a little too quick on that one. No, I'm just... There you go. It's like, look at those social media pages to gather information, to use that as an example in a teachable moment, saying, hey, you're telling me where you are and that you're not at home, that you're on vacation, and I can use this against you. Or all your profile settings are too public where you're allowing too much information to be shared out there. It's like, who's doing that? You have to do that, every single one of us. It's like we have to show them that these teachable moments affect change. And so one of the last things is like, how do we battle constantly changing landscape and fight against battle fatigue? How do we do that ourselves? Who here gets tired of hearing another virus outbreak or ransomware just took out the network? It's depressing. It's like you want to make it a challenge. It's like you don't do it by feeling like you're fighting your own people. Because that's what you're doing. A lot of us, not you doing, it's like it's not specific, but that's what a lot of us are doing. We're fighting a two-front war against the attackers and our users. We're so split on trying to fight what our users are doing and them doing it wrong and them being a problem and they're being the way the breach is happening, and then fighting the attacker and the criminal that's coming in and compromising them and using them as a threat. It's like we feel that. Instead of taking time to make them your allies and make them part of your fighting force, to make them understand and make them understand completely that they're there to help the company and you're there to help the company, so everybody is helping the company against the attackers. Until we get to that stage, you're going to keep feeling battle fatigue because you're in a foxhole all by yourself and the bullets are coming from within the foxhole. That's never good. It's like I've seen enough war movies that never ends well. It's like, so you have to make sure that you're cultivating your team to be part of your solution. And I have to make one other confession. The title of this talk was, this is really not about you or our industry, but yeah, sorry about that. It is us. This whole talk is to us. We have to do better. We want shiny boxes that blink a lot and protect our users from themselves because they're too stupid to click on a link, and that takes the credibility off of us. We find so many different ways to blame users on what's happening into our environment that we don't have to take responsibility for it, that it's our environment, that it's our machines. We need to get to the point where we realize that we're invested in what the security is of the company. Why aren't we making all the other employees just as invested, making them part of our solution? And until we get that, we're going to keep failing. We need to stop failing. No, seriously, I'm done. Thank you. Now, here's a good moment where y'all can question me. Anybody got any questions? Y'all want to throw things at me? Argue with the fact that I'm totally bogus? Or No, there's no store picks. Oh, people were actually going to throw things at me. Thank you. It's like that's not the first time that's happened, but it's like. Yes, I have tried turning off. Oh, also, once again, big shout out to Jeff for letting me actually, like, literally just grabbing his laptop, airdropping my slide deck to his machine. Yay, Apple security, and was able to present off of it. So thank you for that. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
So my big thing that I keep running into, and I hope I'm not the only one, is convincing management that we are not always going to be in the 40% that doesn't get breached.
You know how you do that? It's like one of the best ways to get upper management involved in the security process is metrics. Are you reporting every month how many firewall blocks happen on your firewall? Yes, it's in the millions. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's a number. Are you giving the metrics of how many IDS alerts go off? Are you giving them the numbers of how many spam emails come in and get stopped at the gateway? Well, yeah, usually people will pay on breach, but I'm not recommending you breach your company to get the. Yeah, it's like it's on video. I wouldn't recommend breaching your company to get them to buy-in. But it's like you actually give them metrics. Start giving them numbers and letting them see tangible. Because one of the biggest problems we have is every year, at the end of the year, we tell them, say, hey, I know we spent $1 million this last year, but notice how hardly anything ever happened? Well, we need another $2 million, so hardly anything happens next year. We're giving them like, we're trying to prove the negative. So give them numbers. Give them something that they can look at, something tangible, so they can see it may be meaningless numbers, it's like to you, but it gives them metrics, it makes it real for them. So that's a good way to do it. Okay, since everybody else is walking out anyway, I'm done. Thank you, guys.